Dockery, Chair, current, and Doug Sherrill, a Commissioner. So we're going to start off with Mr. Dockery. There's been a lot of talk about leadership during this campaign. Please tell us about your leadership experience.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. This shows a commitment to our community. When you talk about leadership, I feel like I've got a lot of experience in that area. I'm commissioned from North Georgia College back in 1989, and I've served in various capacities within the military. I've served commanding troops both in peacetime and in wartime overseas. So I think those experiences really prepare me. There's nothing like leading people when their lives depend on it. So I think that's really prepared me a lot. I've also had leadership positions here in the community, and as many of you may know, I chaired the Development Authority for several years, from 2007 until I took office as the Board Commissioner. I've also served as Vice Chair of the Water Authority. So I think those things have really prepared me as a leader. As a leader, sometimes you have to make a tough decision, and it's really hard sometimes to make those tough decisions and not tell people exactly what it is they want to hear, but what it is that they need to hear. You have to take a stance and stay with it. So I think those are some of the experiences that prepare me to be a good leader.
Thank you very much. Now, Doug, you get the same question. What's your leadership experience?
I would say that my number one leadership experience would have to be that I'm a father of 4 children. My children teach me more than I probably could seem to want to teach them, and learning every day. District 1 Commissioner for the past 3.5 years. I have my talents and abilities from high school as far as student council, boys state, grad school, Senate. I have a master's degree in public administration, and serve as the chair of the Board of Health here locally. I've pastored a number of churches. I've been a youth pastor. I coach at least 3 sports, so I know that leadership demands understanding people, and it's more about connecting really than it is communication. And so I believe that I have effective leadership abilities to be able to encourage our community and lead this community as we grow together.
Thank you. Thank you. You'll get this next question, Doug, and it's going to be, you ran 4 years ago and you had some goals. You stated what your goals were. Which of those have you accomplished, and what do you hope to accomplish in the next 4 years if you are elected as chair?
When I ran, I guess I was about a year out of grad school and realized that I needed to use my education to help the community. I had served in various capacities over my past 20 years, but I wanted to do something to help really the staff, our management, how we were managing effectively the fire, the sheriff, the various departments, the planning office. And so I have taken a lead role and initiated some fiscal contributions. For example, saw an $800,000 line item in the budget that was unallocated. It was unpaid taxes that they knew they were going to receive, but they weren't recognizing that amount of money. So I said, let's take that money and we put that into the budget without a tax increase. And that first year we were able to absorb our insurance increases and some other unforeseen increases that we had. So I have a great ability to look at the budgets and to encourage fiscal responsibility and to improve new management things with the county manager. So I've done those things, and my record is clear. You can look in the minutes and see some things that we've done.
Great, thank you very much. That's your question also, Mr. Dockery. You ran 4 years ago, you had goals. Which of those that you stated early on have you accomplished? And what do you want to accomplish in the next 4 years?
I'll start with the goals. And I know this, you hear every candidate talk about economic development and infrastructure. I don't think anybody ever runs for office because they don't mention that. But those were 2 of the things that I wanted to do 4 years ago, was work on improving economic development. And I hear people all the time say, what are we doing for economic development? I can tell you, you can't hear me in the back? Okay. I'll try to speak louder. I'll tell you on economic development, the very first thing we did is we closed out the Coyo deal. That was a $56 million expansion that we started when I was the chair of the Development Authority. We continued to work on that deal and get it closed out. The goal was to create 50 new jobs. We're now surpassed 64 jobs with that piece of economic development. In addition, we were able to go back and find a little bit of money in the 2008 SPLOST, give it to the Development Authority. That was $134,000. They bought land just below Chester T. Ford on Highway 400. They built a building as on speculation. Before they could even start the building, we had a tenant. We've got a long-term tenant there called Arcadia. They're looking to bring 50 new jobs to Lumpkin County. I'll talk about infrastructure real quick. You can tap me when I got about 15 seconds left. We'll talk about infrastructure real quick. We've expanded nearly 2 miles of water line. I can't tell you the last time that's happened in Lumpkin County, and that may sound insignificant, but when you consider what's been done in the past to turn that ship around and start doing something positive, and expansion is monumental in my book. That nearly 2 miles of water line has created 13 new fire hydrants in this county. We need to continue to work on those fire hydrants. We need to continue to use that Arcadia model to get more businesses to work in here in Lumpkin County. Another thing that I'm very proud of is to build relationships with the city of Dahlonega, and we've worked real hard to develop and strengthen those relationships.
Great. I'm going to give you this microphone. Stay on the stand. So, Chairman Dockery, this is an interesting question, I think. I find it interesting. How do you explain to county voters that when you receive federal money for a project, we lose some control of our project? Because it comes with strings. So,
Can you repeat the question?
yeah. So when we have a project that we receive federal money for, it's helping us with it. There have been some questions that goes, well, sometimes these strings are unmanageable, and they cost us a lot of money. So the question, the way I read it is, how do you explain to the people that when we do accept this federal money, and it does have strings, maybe if it gets out of control for us, you're willing to refuse those funds when the associated obligations are just too much?
Absolutely. That thing works real well, doesn't it? Can everybody hear me now? That is a very good point, and a prime example would be like a SAFER grant to hire new firemen. That's one that we're looking at right now. But what happens is that pays those salaries for the first 3 years, but after that, that money goes away and then the burden falls back onto the local government. So I really pride our board on being able to look through those grants and find those things. It's almost impossible to run a local government without accepting some grant money. Some of it comes with strings, some of it does not. Some of it just comes with a local match. Some of it you have to do this and the other thing in order to qualify for the grant. So we look at those and we really screen those things hard and see what really fits our county. But if you took away all the grants, I don't know how we could possibly afford to run a county government. So we're dependent on those. We all send our money up to the state and the federal level, and then we get those back. One other example is we talked about the water line extension. That was a community development block grant. That's a state grant to the Department of Community Affairs, but it has federal money with it. So when we applied for that grant, there was a local match with that grant, but that's $500,000 that we got to extend that water line by leveraging some low-income housing in order to get that money. And if we don't do that, there's no way we're going to continue to grow our county. So all I can tell you is, yes, there's strings attached, and you've got a very competent board that understands that, and we vet those grants and make sure they're the right thing for Lumpkin County.
Doug, you get that same code, can we read it again, or you have it?
I think I can do it.
Okay.
Grants under our federalist system are a necessary evil. I mean, this has been around for 150 years where local and state governments take money from the hierarchy of our government. It's part of the system. When I first took office, I think the staff looked at me like I was crazy because I constantly was asking questions about these grants. And one of the things I found humorous was if it was a federal grant, like many are at the senior center, they're typed and printed either with a dot matrix printer or literally with a typewriter. And I thought, how archaic is the federal government? There are strings attached, and it takes a leader, and our board does this, to actually read the documents. What does this document say? What is it going to put us on the line for? The Safer Grant is a good example. The firefighters, can we afford those men and women in employment in year 4? We've got to look at that and see if we can do that. Can we manage that financially? And a lot of times the answer is no. Some of the grants we get, a lot of them are through the sheriff's office. You learn things like, these vests, these bulletproof vests have a lifespan, whether or not they've ever been shot at or not. Grants are a necessary part of our government. The way I view it is we're giving money to the state, we're paying money to the federal government. I think that we deserve some of that money back. If we don't get the money back here locally, some other locality will get that money. And until everyone, as a conservative, until every local government says, all right, where none of us are going to take grants, you won't change the system. Because it is a highly competitive system, and I want our citizens to get the money back here locally before other communities get it.
Thanks. You're going to answer the next question first. The next question concerns business development. And it says, how do you propose to broaden our Lumpkin County tax base? Thoughts on that?
So you said business development and then tax base. So it sounds like a leading question, right? We're going to broaden the tax base by building businesses. Let me say something about government. I do not believe that government can or should create jobs. Okay? That's not an idea I espouse. I believe that government can create an environment for business to thrive. One of the ways that business can thrive and we can increase the tax base is prevent regulation that's unnecessary. In the past 3.5 years, I have stood against a number of regulations that have been proposed by some on the board and some that my opponent has supported on regulation. We do not need excessive regulation. For example, when you go to the planning office and you want a business license, you shouldn't have to fill out 15 different pages of paperwork and go through this and that to try to get a business license. You shouldn't have to go through extensive ordinances to build your home. We're getting that way, and Atlanta is moving up. I work in the planning and development arena, land planning, so that's what I do. So I understand permitting and the importance of permitting, and I understand the excesses of permitting. If you've tried to build anything in Forsyth County, you know what I'm talking about. We don't need that in Lumpkin County. If we're going to broaden the tax base, we have to build an environment that businesses say, I want to relocate there. Ultimately, though, I will say that the leading question on economic development and business, again, we can't create jobs, okay? And what can we do? Infrastructure. We can do that. We can put water lines, we can put sewer lines in, and we can prepare for, I believe we're 5 to 10 years out from seeing the growth that we really need to see in our tax base. Timing is a lot of economic development, and we can promise grocery store, we can promise a lot of things on 400, whatever it is we may offer. I'm telling you, I can't do those things, and no one here can do those things for this community. What we can do is prepare with the environment. Thank you.
You need a question?
No, I got it.
I own a business here in Lumpkin County. I'm also a general contractor. So I think it goes without saying that I would never support more regulation to get a business license or to establish a business, or as it relates to pulling any permits. So I certainly would not support that. I think that you got to take it one step back. We talk about economic development, recruiting businesses. I think what we lack as a community is an overall vision, something that we all have bought into. 4 years ago, I said, I want this community to come up with a vision. We need a vision that everybody buys into. That has proven to be the hardest task during this 4 years, but it's coming to fruition. The city is a stakeholder, the university is a stakeholder, the chamber is a stakeholder, the Downtown Development Authority is a stakeholder, as is the county and the Development Authority of Lumpkin County. We have all contributed to this visioning process. It is underway. You're going to see more and more about it in the months to come. There's going to be town hall meetings. There's going to be surveys. What we need as far as economic development is what everybody in this room wants us to have for economic development. We've got to find the commonalities. We've got to know as a county what we're doing for economic development. What does that do to the city of Dahlonega? Does it help it or does it hurt it? Those are the things we need to know. Dahlonega needs to know if we do this, what's the impact on the county? The university needs to be at the table. They're a big part of this community. So we have to have them at the table. It's important that we know what they're doing. So I think we've got to have that common vision as a community, and then we go forward with economic development that's supported by everybody. We cannot continue to work in silos. That's my thought on economic development.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so we're back to you, Mr. Dockery. The next question is going to be concerning planning ordinance. The question is, do you think the county planning ordinance adequately encourages the kinds of businesses we want to have in Lumpkin? Could traditional zoning help?
That's a very good question. I can tell you, I'm about property rights. I can't tell you of a situation where any land use planning that we have has prohibited or discouraged the building of a business from coming to Lumpkin County. As it relates to zoning, I don't think we're there yet. We have a land use plan. We have designated areas for residential, agricultural, commercial, heavy industrial, and it seems to foot the bill. I think what we need to do is we need to go back and look at those. We need to go back and look at those areas. They haven't been reviewed in a while, and we need to update that. We need to make sure that that actually fits what we're trying to accomplish as a community vision, that it's reflected on that. And that's one of the things I asked Commissioner Sherrill to work on our comprehensive plan, and he's chairing the committee for the comprehensive plan, and all of that has to tie into that. So as we look at that comprehensive plan and we try to determine where growth is going, or where we want to steer certain growth, all of that has to tie together. So as it relates to zoning, I am opposed to zoning.
Yeah, I would have to reiterate that zoning has its benefits and its downfalls. We have worked under land use, and it's been innovative. It's been so innovative, actually, that communities all over the state are adopting it as an overlay on top of their zoning ordinances. So land use is actually a very creative way to marry property rights and at the same time restrict use based on, for example, setbacks. That's what our land use does. If you want to build a subdivision beside a chicken house, fine, you can do that, but you may have a 300-foot setback. So is our land use code comprehensive? No, it needs work. And as the chairman mentioned, the comprehensive plan is addressing the land use code itself. There are a number of items that we've got to work on. I think there was heard some scuttle about the Dollar Generals, for example. Don't like that facade, maybe they need more trees. Those are issues that the community at large needs to address, needs to come together And when we do a revision of the land use code, the entire community must, by law, attend and have input into how that needs to be amended. Zoning, I would not be in favor of zoning, and I don't think that the community at large would be in favor of zoning.
Back to you, Mr. Sherrill. Second part of that question, do you think Lumpkin County's ordinance is adequate to protect the property owners? Do you think it's okay to, the way it is now, to protect our property owners?
I do not think that in all cases it protects property owners. A prime example is what we've dealt with in the detox center that I'm sure all of you have heard about. Those are issues that folks want the land use code to protect them in, but on the other hand, we have overriding laws like the Fair Housing Act where you cannot discriminate against such facilities and where they locate, even if you have zoning. So on one hand, we may not want the detox facility beside us. On the other hand, we have a pending lawsuit where the Fair Housing Act is going to say it must by law be located there because of our anti-discrimination laws. It's a tough balance. Nothing perfect in the ordinance. I will say that's another part of my experience is in looking at these ordinances. For the past 3.5 years, I've looked at some of the policies. I've even looked and helped draft how they're formatted. Because a policy, when I look at a policy, I say, what are the unintended consequences? Not just what are the benefits of the policy, but I look first at the unintended consequences. Are the unintended consequences of writing this policy or changing this ordinance, are they greater negatively, a negative impact, than the benefits that we want out of it? And if so, then we need to scrap the policy and we need to start over again.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Chair, Mr. Dockery, same question.
Can you repeat the question?
The question was, do you think Lumpkin County's planning ordinance is adequate to protect property owners? Is it adequate to protect property owners?
I have to say no. I think it's a good start, but I think there's some things that need to be corrected. Commissioner Sherrill mentioned a couple with some facilities located in the county. I can tell you just a prime example, a phone call that I got last week about a property owner who had a neighbor that was given a variance to build within 20-foot setback next to his property line. This neighbor was never involved in that process, and I think that's something that I've already started working on. It needs to change. If a variance is going to be requested, then the neighbor needs to be involved if it affects that neighbor. So I think as we look at that system of how those variances are given, there needs to be some work there. I don't think our system is completely broken, but I think it needs to be perfected. So we'll continue to work on that. But to answer your question, no, not completely. I don't think it protects property rights.
Back to you, Mr. Dockery. The last question in this category is the current sign ordinance adequate?
I think the current sign ordinance is adequate. I don't, as we talk about businesses moving to Lumpkin County, we have to present ourselves in such a way that we want to encourage them to come here. We don't want to set up roadblocks. We don't want to set up any stumbling blocks, anything that would prohibit them from being here. Now, that's not to say that we need flashing neon signs and, Ricky's fireworks and all that stuff. We don't need that, and our ordinance protects us from that. But we have to be willing to work with these businesses that locate here in the county. So I think we've got a good sign ordinance, and all it needs to be is enforced.
Thank you very much.
Was that that?
Next was county services. Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you get that. Sherrill.
All right, no problem. Sign ordinance. The Supreme Court the United States ruled on a sign issue that dealt with, once again, discrimination and also freedom of speech. No policy can be written that discriminates or prevents the content of a sign. Okay? We currently have a moratorium on our sign ordinance. That's the origin of the question. We have that moratorium because we're having to look at the sign ordinance and its insufficiencies. It is insufficient. If you're in the city, and all these questions, please, when we're responding to these, please make a distinction between the city and the county. Okay? There's a distinction that has to be made between the city signs, the city ordinances, and the county. Sometimes we have the perception when we're saying this, maybe you're thinking of the square, and we don't govern those issues. We're county, so if there's one thing I think the sign ordinance should have, it should deal with light pollution. You've heard that term, I guess. That's a common term, light pollution. Where that you don't want a huge beaming light shining down upon your home. Maybe it's a problem. So that's an area that I think that we need to look at. Content cannot be governed. We all deal with these signs, these atrocious political signs, right? And the city has an ordinance. I don't know if you know all this. I mean, there's a certain square footage that they have on how many signs you can have on a property and these sort of things. It's very, it's down to the minutia on the sign design. We don't have that in the county. That's why in the county you'll see 50 signs, right? What we do have, though, of course, you can't have them on the right-of-way. Sign ordinance needs to be improved. We've got to look at it. It's why it's under moratorium currently. And thank you.
Thank you. Stay up there. We're going to get the next one. Next one deals with county services. The question is, what workable suggestions do you have for the college to pay for county services they receive? Is the county adequately reimbursed for fire and sheriff, etc.?
The big elephant in the room, right? I posed a scenario to a number of individuals who complained about college. I said, what if I told you that we had an industry that was coming to our community that would employ 1,200 people, would generate millions of dollars in sales tax, would educate our young people, provide a workforce? Would you want us to pursue it? And overwhelmingly the response was yes. Well, I'm going to submit to you, we have that in Lumpkin. There are great benefits to UNG. The chairman and I both have graduated from North Georgia College, so we do have a little bias as far as our education goes. How can we get them to pay for it? No school in the state pays PILs, right? Payment in lieu of taxes. I don't see that ever happening. I don't think the Board of Regents will approve that. I think that dog won't hunt. Here's what I do think we can do. I think we solicit student government over at the college, the grad senate and the undergraduate council, and we say, listen, we need a movement for student fees at the college to help fund some capital improvements in the county. For example, buying a ladder truck that's been on the docket for some time. I think that is probably our most plausible opportunity to gain some revenue from the college. If the college were here tonight, they would certainly think and propose to you that they are an economic engine. If they left tomorrow, certainly I believe that this community would be desolate in many regards. And some of us may like that because now I know it takes forever to go through town when class is out, right? So we've got to address the traffic issue, no doubt. And I think the bigger issue with the college, we're looking for people to blame. And this is not the blame game. This is a time for all of us to come together and say, listen, we have a university here. Let's utilize the asset that we have and let's work together to see an improvement instead of blaming them for all the woes that are upon our community. They're not sucking us dry in revenue toward our local government. It's just not happening. I'm proud to see the students here, and I think we need to work and have a symbiotic relationship where we help each other out.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Dockery.
I gotta say, I can't support student fees for a fire truck. My son starts there this fall. He's on scholarship, but it probably doesn't cover the fire truck fee. If you close your eyes and you just imagine our community without the University of North Georgia, if you just took that out of there, what would we look like? If you think about all your neighbors who are employed there, and I've got a lot of them. My father retired there as a postmaster, so he worked there 32 years. It provided for our family. If you look at all the students who attend North Georgia, who have mom and daddy's credit card from Dunwoody, that come up here and shop at Walmart and eat at Shenanigans, eat at the Picnic Cafe, go all over town, that is an economic generator. So as we talk about the university, I think we have to be real careful because they are part of our community and they do contribute to our community. It is true that what they do on campus, the buildings they build, that's not on our tax digest and it never will be. I don't ever see a payment in lieu of taxes or a bill. But I think that what they generate would far exceed what they would pay in property tax. I genuinely believe that. Anybody that was at Parents Alumni Weekend this weekend, with all of the people coming in, staying in the community, it is an economic generator, and we need to continue to treat it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay up there. Two more questions. One is, what are the senior center issues? What are the senior center issues?
Funding. We've had to make some tough decisions as we're trying to balance what our budget will support and the services that we provide. Every year, cost of living goes up. For county government, it's no different. Those services continue to cost more money. Funding goes away. A lot of the supplements that we have at the federal level, state level for the senior center have gone away. A couple of years ago, we had to make a very tough decision as it relates to the senior center. We had to implement some fees down there. And Commissioner Sherrill, it's a tough thing to do, but Commissioner Sherrill made that motion to implement those fees. And it was a tie vote. It was a tie vote as to whether or not we should actually implement those fees. Commissioner Stowers was in the room with us, former commissioner. He voted against it. I remember that. It left me to break the tie. It's a very tough thing. It's the only time I get to vote is when we change the outcome of the vote. But I voted to implement those fees because I think what you're going to see, unless we can generate more revenue, more of the services provided by the county have to be fee-based. The people who are actually using those services will have to pay those fees. We also we changed the fee structure for parks and recreation. So when my little boy plays baseball now, we voted to increase those fees. So I pay more money. But it's not fair for some of the people in this room maybe that don't use those services to contribute that much to those fees. So I am for fee-based services.
Thank you very much. Same question.
The question was, what are the problems of
What are the senior center issues? What are the senior center issues?
When I took office, I readily admit I knew very little to nothing about the senior center. I have since learned that it is a thriving place. It is as thriving as this place right here with the young people. There's a lot of activities that go on. Yes, we increased some fees, not for folks who couldn't afford, but for folks there's some voluntary things and some programs going on over there, and we did increase some minimum fees. Went out, it's been a couple months ago, and delivered the Meals on Wheels, and went around and saw individuals who either can't get out of their home or they have family who's working, different issues within their home, and they need a fresh meal. And there are local volunteers that every single day of the week in Lumpkin County, they're delivering meals to our seniors in this community. That is extremely important for us to continue to fund and to continue to supplement that program over there. There are people in this community that are truly in need. The socioeconomic status of this community is such that there are a lot of folks, you see it at the school system, look at the stats there, the kids that are on assisted lunch. The same thing goes with our seniors. They need help and they need our assistance and our compassion, our care. I believe it will increase as our population is increasing. We're going to have to invest money into our senior center. Let me say this about the issue of the senior center and any other department I could mention tonight. They all have something to do with economic development. An investment in the senior center, in the transportation, for example, the buses that run and transport folks around the community. I have clients that have looked and their business metrics say, okay, do you have a transportation system? If you say yes, you say, what is it? And how far will it reach? If you don't have those fundamental systems, there are businesses that will not locate to Lumpkin County. If you don't have a thriving park and rec system, you will not have a thriving business development plan. Thanks.
Thank you very much, sir. And the last question, and we'll start with you, Mr. Sherrill. What are your thoughts on investing in a new library?
I love books. I am an avid reader. I carry an iPad and I'm trying to get into Kindle and I have books on Kindle, but I tell you, I love hardback books. And my family will tell you, I have bookshelves and everywhere I go there are bookshelves and books. My children have always had books. Readers are leaders. That's what my mom always told me when I was growing up. Readers are leaders. So do we need a library? Yes, we need a library, and we need the community to back and support and invest in a new library. Will it happen overnight? Should it happen this year? It can't. That's the reality of it. I've been working with friends of the library and the employees at the library as to what can we do? How can we plan this? We need a plan. We need a leader who will say, yes, we will move this forward. We'll put it in our comprehensive plan. We'll put it on our agenda. We'll consider it. I can tell you that last year they came begging us for book money. They had been furloughed. They had certain other issues, and I backed and supported to increase their budget by $50,000 so they could buy books last year. They needed those books. Do we need a new library? If the friends of the library are here, and you probably have your chart in your back pocket, right? And you show how far behind Lumpkin County is in its library. The library serves a multitude of individuals. I believe it's over 13,000 a month. I think is the last number that I saw, over 13,000 a month enter our library facility. We need a new library, and I pray that the community comes together and has a vision to say, hey, let's do something. How much money is this going to cost? $6 to $10 million. That's probably where we're at. That's why I'm saying it can't be done this year. Finally, the pragmatic part of that is the capital improvement. Can we get $6 to $10 million this year? Probably. Maybe. But that's not the real issue. With any type of structure, the real issue is the sustained operating cost. How much is that going to increase the county budget? That's what we got to look at.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sherrill talked about the numbers of the usage of the library. And when I first heard those numbers, I thought, they're counting those people going in and out. But I don't think that's the case. No, we really have to address our library. I've gone to the Friends of the Library meeting, and that's a very passionate group. And I spent a lot of time with General Alexky, if any of you know him. We took a trip. We're looking at any kind of alternative, and we took a trip up to Union County. A good friend of mine, the sole commissioner up there, Mr. Lamar Paris, gave us a tour of their library where they took an old bank building and converted it into a library. Beautiful facility. It has a computer room, kids' room. It's a very nice facility, and we were really intrigued by that trip. That's a possibility. We talked further, and we decided that it would be good to form a library task force. So we've got some good members on that library task force and some good community leaders, and we're anxious to hear what that library task force is going to come back with and give us some opinions and some options that maybe we should explore. But the very first thing, again, is to get the community buy-in for the library. Not a Lumpkin County project, but a community project. So we'll continue to work on that, and it's my intention in the next 4 years to move that project forward.
Thank you very much. Thanks to both of you. We're going to have a nice round of applause for you. Closing, you got to get your 3 minutes.
Let me propose to you that there's different styles and different means of leadership. In my leadership ability and capacity, I have learned that leadership's not about me. Okay? This tonight is not about us or anyone that comes up here. It's about you and this entire community. You can have leadership that stands up here and says, hey, I've ascended the mountain, I want you to come up here with me. Right? That's not leadership. That's, as John Maxwell said, he said that's a hiker. He made it to the top all alone. They say leadership is lonely at the top. Yeah, that's not true leadership. True leadership is empowering. True leadership says to the community, to other elected officials, I want to empower you and equip you to move this county forward. There are some people that believe that progress is moving backwards slowly. I'm not of that persuasion. I believe that we need to move forward. I believe that we can do that with the proper leadership. I believe that it's important that we have what's called, what I've thought of as a team of teams. A general wrote a book on the team of teams. And I think that's what we need. There are other elected officials that are a part of this team. The sheriff is a part of this team. He's a part of economic development. The fire chief is a part of this team. The planning director is a part of this team. All these team members must have a leader that equips them and says, let's come up with a plan and let's devise this plan and let's move this plan forward. I have the ability to bring opposing ideas together in the same room and talk it out and come to a consensus. I don't need to, a leader doesn't need to have the agenda. A leader doesn't need to make the motion. A leader needs to say, guys, gals, what are we going to do and how are we going to move this forward, and equip individuals to do that. I will do that for this community. I think my record speaks for itself. For the past 3.5 years, I've loved serving, and I will serve in any capacity that this community allows me to serve in. I thank you for your time, and if you have specific questions for me, I'll be glad to answer any questions for you tonight as you leave. Thank you for your time.
I've got just a brief definition of leadership here I'd like to share. It says influencing people by providing purpose, direction, and motivation while operating to accomplish a goal and improve the organization. And over the past 3-4 years, I've included our board. I think I've done some unprecedented things as the chairman. Commissioner Sherrill mentioned earlier that he chaired the Board of Health this year. That's a seat that traditionally belongs to the chairman of the Board of Commissioners. I yielded in order to give our board an opportunity to be involved. Commissioner Stringer's in the back of the room. Raise your hand, let everybody see you there, Brad. Traditionally, the chairman serves on the Water Authority. I yielded my seat so Commissioner Stringer could get involved in the Water Authority. I can name other instances. Commissioner Pullen sitting in the room with us, he chairs various committees that I've asked him to do. I love to see our board get involved. I love to see our board stay informed, and I encourage them to do that. So leadership is demonstrated. It's easy to learn about it. It's easy to have a certificate. It's a totally different ballgame to demonstrate that leadership. And I think over the past 4 years, I've demonstrated that leadership. I need your help. I need your vote. I would like to demonstrate that leadership for our community for the next 4 years. Thank you for coming tonight, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.